Yo, that basketball world is the one and only legend of winning, aka Low. And I know where Zach LaVine needs to go. It just hit me like a ton of bricks. Now, for people that don't know, over the past week or two, there's been a lot of rumors circulating around Chicago Bulls, Zach LaVine, and what they're going to do with the rest of that roster. Now, me personally, I held off on it because I didn't want to jump the gun, but not only as time has passed, the Bulls they're mediocre. It looks like they're at the end of their rope, and it looks like the rebuild is inevitable. But more importantly, LaVine himself, it seems as if his camp has entertained the concept of being traded. And unfortunately for Chicago, this is pretty disastrous, but still salvageable. 7 years ago when they got Zach LaVine, they didn't really know what they were going to get. Come to find out, he actually turned out to be an all-star caliber guard, really great scorer, much more dynamic than I think a lot of people give him credit for. And all around, I think LaVine is one of the most underrated players in the NBA. He's a straight bucket, 23 to 25 points, really great shooter. I think he's worked well off ball, a really, really dynamic player, much better defender than people give him credit for as well. The problem is though, bro, the Bulls suck, dog. They don't know what they're doing. And in pursuit of trying to figure him out and figure out what to do with him, the Bulls decided to build a big three, but honestly, it's like a mid three, if we being honest with ourselves. They made commitments to DeMar DeRozan and Nikola Vucevic, in the process giving up Lauri Markkanen, who turned out to be an all-star, Wendell Carter Jr., who has not really panned out as well as people thought he was going to, but still a quality rotation piece, and three, not one, not two, but three first-rounders, one of which turned out to be Franz Wagner, and another one still hasn't been conveyed, that's in 2025, to the San Antonio Spurs. But hey, that's Chicago, and here we are now, failure after failure after failure from the Jim Boylan years, because boy, those were tough, to even making the playoffs and getting knocked out in the first round, which has been the ceiling for this big three out in Chicago. And with DeMar DeRozan being on an expiring contract, Nikola Vucevic, I think, only has a year or two left on his deal, it is very clear that this team needs to just blow it up, move in a different direction, and try to get in as many young players and draft assets as possible, because again, they're just running out of time. Now, since this revelation that honestly, many of us in the NBA community, we knew about this a year or two ago. It was very obvious that Vooch, DeMar, and LaVine weren't really going to go far in the Eastern Conference. But now, since we're all here, everyone wants to talk about where is Zach LaVine going to go. Not only has his team already requested to be traded, but it is, again, pretty inevitable. Now, in my humble opinion, as much as I love Zach LaVine, there's a lot of teams that are being thrown around this conversation that I personally don't think really makes that much sense. Shout out to The Athletic, as well as a couple of other publications making claims that there are certain teams that are interested in him. We'll go through those teams. I'm going to tell you why I don't think it's going to work. But more importantly, I'm going to give you the team that I actually do believe Zach LaVine belongs on and makes the most sense, and I'll explain to you why. First, we had the Toronto Raptors. I've seen this team circulate around the conversation, and honestly, we can go ahead and get them out of the way. I do not want to see Zach LaVine go from one dead-end situation to another dead-end situation. The Raptors are an organization that honestly has a lot of potential, but not a lot of promise. This is a team that's still building with OG Anunoby at the forefront, and Pascal Siakam kind of in this weird situation where he's on an expiring contract. I personally believe even if Pascal signs an extension and is on his team long-term, a duo of Siakam and LaVine is not good enough to go far in the Eastern Conference, regardless of how good you think OG Anunoby will be within these next 2 to 3 years. Moving on to the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, the Sixers are in the business of getting a star caliber player. Why is this? Well, because they traded James Harden, and the only thing they got in return were a bunch of role players who were on expiring contracts. Now, Philly has already stated that they're trying to leverage those expiring contracts into getting a star, so it seems like Zach LaVine is the obvious answer, and of course, he certainly would make this team better. I don't want to make it seem that way at all, but personally speaking, I don't believe that is the star they should be going for. I think they need to get a bit more defensive oriented and more front court play rather than back court play. The reason I say this is because A, Tyrese Maxey, he's hooping. Tyrese is going out of his mind. If I'm Philly, I'm not trying to stop anything that has to do with Tyrese. I don't want to impede on that, so I'm not going to put another scoring guard in the backcourt with him to potentially take the ball out of his hands even more. They're also potentially going to lose Tobias Harris, so that is a void they need to fulfill, and I don't think that Zach LaVine really fulfills the needs for this team outside of just getting another star. That's very important for Philly because they want to convince Joel Embiid to stay long-term, and honestly, I believe that Embiid is 1 or 2 bad postseason runs away from really demanding a trade, but I do believe if you jump the gun just so you can say you have another star on the team and it doesn't really work out, you're kind of running in circles if you're Philly. You want to move in a more concerted direction. Now moving on to another team, we have the Miami Heat. Now, yes, Miami has been looking for some star guard talent, and yes, they did swing and miss on Beal, and yeah, they swung and missed on Damian Lillard as well, but I think there's a reason why they didn't go all in on those caliber players, and it's because they want younger, fresher legs. They want a bit more dynamic play with their point guard. And even though, yes, Bradley Beal, scoring guard, very explosive, but you can already see some of the problems that he's having out in Phoenix with his bad back, and he's just not been available. Similar things we can see about Dame. It's very clear that he's not the same player, even with the new team that's going to take a bit of a learning curve for him to get back to who he once was. Still, he's not the same player. And when it comes to Zach LaVine, even though I think he's, again, really good, I don't think he is a passer and playmaker that they need. Again, you probably don't want to disturb what Tyler Hero is doing. Duncan Robinson is back in his bag. And when we talk about someone like Zach LaVine who's making 40 M's on a year-to-year basis, you're either A, going to have to give up one of those two players in Hero and Duncan, or B, give up a lot of depth in the process, which again can work out. I don't want to make it seem like Miami is not a good fit, because it actually really is. But I do believe if you are Miami, there's a reason why you're still holding on to Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero. It's a reason why you haven't really pulled the trigger and been aggressive with other guards. And I think the reason for it is because you have your eye on another guard out in Cleveland by the name of D. Mitch, because quiet is kept. D. Mitch is definitely going to ask out. Let's just be honest with ourselves. D. Mitch, he ain't staying in Cleveland. He just not. He packing his bags. He's tired of just sitting there hoping that Evan Mobley takes an offensive leap while he just sitting there dribbling between his legs trying to create for literally everyone on the floor. D. Mitch, in my opinion, is the guard, if you are Miami, that you should be going for, not Zach LaVine. And finally, a team that everyone wants to talk about, the Lakers. To the NBA world, please stop panicking every single time the Lakers lose. Everybody just lose their mind. Like, oh my God, the Lakers are not as good as I thought they were. Oh my God, we got to make trades. Trade now, trade. Somebody has to be traded. You know what? We can't just get complimentary pieces or role players and make the team more complete. No. We need another star. We need another star in LA. That's what we need. Like, calm down, bro. Calm down. Now, I'm not going to act like Zach LaVine wouldn't make them better, because he actually would. But what exactly do the Lakers need? They need defense, in particular, point of attack defense. Zach LaVine does not provide that. He may be better than Austin Reeves and D'Lo, but that's a really low bar. The Lakers also need a 5-man to move AD, put him at his natural position, but more importantly, properly prepare themselves to defend Jokic in the postseason, which for whatever reason, everyone in the Western Conference has forgotten. I don't know why. That should have been top priority number one for everyone in the offseason. And more importantly though, 3-point shooting, which Zach LaVine does, and I do believe a bit more dynamic play at the guard position. I love Austin Reeves. I love D'Lo, but it is very, very clear that LeBron is still the primary playmaker and decision maker for that team, and it's a very wide gap. And as good as Austin Reeves can be, he's not there yet, nor do I believe he will ever get to the point that he's going to get quality looks not only for everyone else, but in particular Anthony Davis, to really maximize who he is as a player. Yes, Zach LaVine is going to make them better. He's going to add another scoring option, because God knows the Lakers need that with AD going up and down every single night. Yes, he's going to provide 3-point shooting, because God knows the Lakers, boy, player, I don't know. Sometimes player put on a Laker jersey, he just forget to shoot. I don't know. So maybe, who knows, Zach LaVine might not be that answer, but yes, the Lakers need some 3-point shooting. But if you are the Lakers, are you really willing to commit $40 to $45 million for the next 3 to 4 years for Zach LaVine? Because LeBron could very well leave next season, go play with his son. I don't know why people forgot about that, but that's a very realistic option for him to do. And now if you're the Lakers, you're stuck with a duo of Zach LaVine and Anthony Davis, which is good, but certainly not good enough to take you to that next level, because it's very clear that team would be heavily flawed without the passing and playmaking that you desperately needed. And that's where I'm personally at as a Laker fan, but also as an outside skeptic of the whole Zach LaVine situation. As good as Zach LaVine is, he does not serve enough purposes for a lot of those teams for him to be on that unit. And more importantly, when you look at the landscape of the rest of the NBA, you might be better off just holding into the trading deadline, waiting to see what's available, waiting into next off season. Let's see who's going to demand a trade and see who might be available then. Not only will Zach LaVine be available, but also Donovan Mitchell. Like I said it before, I think he's going to be available as well. Or maybe you want role players, Royce O'Neal, Malcolm Brogdon. Those players also may be available as well. I think a lot of people, especially the real ball knowers, the real guys who to study the game of basketball, true hoops. We all know the guard that everybody really wants in their team, and that's Zach LaVine's teammate, and that's Alex Caruso. I think Alex Caruso fits way better at a much more manageable contract, a way better price point that you can get him for on a lot of teams. Think about it. Putting Alex Caruso next to Tyrese Maxey in the backcourt? Oh my goodness. Defensively, Joel Embiid gets to have a legit point of attack defender who can play in late game situations. Oh my God. If you are the Miami Heat, having a team with Alex Caruso, Jimmy Butler, and Bam Adebayo? Oh my goodness. With Tyler Hero on the side? Oh my goodness. That sounds great. Yeah, those are all things that are much better, much more palatable, and you don't have to give up as much depth and still see potentially just as good of results because he's a better fit for the team. If you're looking for a forward play, Tobias Harris, Pascal Siakam, Lauri Markkanen, I think people should really check him out in Utah. They're a rebuilding team. He's under contract. He's playing really well still, and it just doesn't make any sense for him to be on that roster. But more importantly, the player I think that many people should be looking into, B.I. Brandon Ingram only has 2 years left on his deal. New Orleans still isn't winning games. Quiet as kept. Zion ain't looking that good. That's who, if you're Philly, that's who you should be getting. An offensive scoring threat who can be your second or third option on any given night, who's going to play a much better role for that team, and it's not going to disrupt what Tyrese Maxey is doing. And then even when you look at the 5 position, Valanciunas, Jakob Poeltl, I think those are great role players. Again, I think the Lakers should really look into that. I actually think that's much better than you trying to force a third star on your roster. Now you have a depleted bench, and then when LeBron leaves, you're kind of cooked now. You're definitely cooked. But the team that should be in a rush to get LaVine is a team that has been struggling recently. They need more scoring punch. They need a complementary wing alongside their star guard, and that's the Golden State Warriors. Bro, recently, it's been abundantly clear Clay's cooked. Finished. You see what I'm doing? You see what I'm doing with my hands? I'm washing him. That nigga's washed. It's done. It's finito. He's not the same player that he once was. Put another 20 to 25 point scorer alongside Steph Curry like everyone else in the league has done alongside their star. Let go of the past, bro, because it's done. And I know that's hard to do, but we are now at a point where Clay is clearly not the same player. You look at the past couple of games, it's been bad to watch. And more importantly, he's on an expiring contract. So the Warriors are going to have to face a tough decision one way or another. Are you going to give a legacy contract to Klay Thompson, effectively closing the championship window? Because I do not believe they're going to win again if they decide to go in that direction. Or are you going to make the moves that are needed to be made and go out and get a legitimate second option alongside Curry? Now, I'm pretty sure many of you may be wondering, Lo, that's not enough to get Zach LaVine. They got to give up more than just Klay. So who else is a part of the trade package? Well, it's going to have to be Kuminga. I know, Warrior fans, you've been holding on to Kuminga, but it's time to let go of that old cum bucket and come on, bring some ready now talent. They've been trying to juggle some young talent for a potential rebuild or trying to prepare for their future while also trying to juggle talent right now to help them maximize the championship window. Now, that's possible, but it's very complex. Unfortunately, we all just have to admit it, the Warriors failed in that process. They were juggling some draft picks that they should have traded, turned into James Wiseman. That didn't work out. They were juggling a young player in Jordan Poole, was really good for them in one postseason run, but the next year very clearly wasn't that same player. They traded him. He's in Washington right now, and he's done. Now, even if Kuminga is good enough to claim that he can be a second option on a championship unit, how long is it going to take him? He's still coming off the bench. He's still having some growing pains here and there, especially with that complicated offense. And when he does finally get there, will Steph Curry still be of the caliber of player where you can confidently claim that he's the best player on a championship team? That is a very, very huge question that I don't think anybody in that Warriors organization has the answer to. But what will be the answer is getting Curry, Draymond, Wiggins, and the rest of that team out there win now talent. And that is Zach LaVine. And more importantly, offensively, he's not going to be asked to do a lot. He will be the second option to the second best offensive player in the league. It will just make his job completely easier. And in response, you're probably going to see a better version of LaVine. And also, and more importantly, the Warriors are just very desperate. They really don't have any other options. So even if it means that they're spending probably a little bit more money than expected on a second scoring option, it is what it is. They really don't have anything else going for them. It's one of their biggest concerns, a dire need, and they can address it immediately. And even if that means giving up Kuminga in the process, I think it's going to be worth it. and I think it works for everyone. The Warriors right now are 6-8 after losing to the Thunder in OT, and we're talking about a Western Conference that's extremely competitive, extremely thick with talent. You do not want to get yourself caught behind the 8 ball this early on in the season and have to climb your way back in the rankings and the standings just so you can find yourself on a low-seeded playoff unit, potentially getting knocked out in the first round and putting a lot of extra mileage on Curry's shoulder, knowing that this team still is not going to be able to compete for a deep postseason run. I believe that makes the most sense for everyone. It's time to move on from Klay. He did his job, he did his thing, Hall of Famer. I believe all those things. I truly believe that. Nuggets. But yo, those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Also, if you want to watch basketball games with me live, make sure you check me out on playback.tv/LowsRoom. We just got done actually watching the Warriors lose to the Thunder. It was a great game, one of the best games so far this season. So you missed out on that. So if you don't want to, make sure you click the link in the description, and I'll see you then. But if not, hit the subscribe button and notification bell, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.